Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. And so glad to have you along with us as we start out this 3-hour weekly adventure into the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. A celebration of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and conservation issues and wildlife issues and even some wild game cooking. And why do we do this? Why do I do this? You know, that's an interesting question. Why do I do this? I got to think about that for a second. Why, to boil it down, why do I do this? Because I think it needs to be heard. I think this is a story that needs to be heard. I think this is a lifestyle that needs to be promoted. I think this is a passion that needs to be protected. I think here, especially in a state like ours in Michigan, where we have so much going on in the outdoors. We have so many people who are tied into outdoor recreation from a business perspective. A lot of, hunting and fishing generate a lot of money. A lot of families in Michigan over many generations have survived and even flourished based on the passions of those who love to hunt and fish. But that's just one reason why I think it needs to be protected. It needs to be protected because it's part of who we are. It needs to be promoted because there are people who think we're crazy. And we know we are not crazy. We might be crazy passionate, but we're not crazy about our interest in the outdoors. Days are getting longer, right? I say this every week, but I notice it more and more every week. You know, it's getting light earlier in the morning. It's staying light later in the evening. I actually heard, and I haven't seen this in person, but I actually heard a report of a dead skunk in the middle of the road in the southern part of the state. I can't confirm that, but my source is a reliable source. Of course, to me, one of the sure signs that springtime is just around the corner is that first dead skunk in the middle of the road. You'll smell him before you'll see him. People say, oh, when the robins come back. Robins. Why is a robin even our state bird? Why do we have a bird as our state bird? For the most part, as soon as it gets nasty out, it abandons us and heads south. But in my mind, not all robins head south because I've seen them right in the middle of the winter, so I don't include the robins coming back as a sign of springtime. My true test of springtime, and this will be several weeks yet, is when I hear that first red-winged blackbird on the pond behind the house. That, to me, will be the first sure sign of spring. But in the meantime, there are lots of great wintertime outdoor activities going on. I have seen so many beautiful pictures, beautiful fish, big fish, people sending them into me here on the Outdoor Magazine Facebook page, the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. And by the way, I love to see that. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with the guys from Overdrive Outdoors, and one of the questions they asked me is, why do you open up your Facebook page and share posts and videos from others? Because a lot of people, their business Facebook page is used only to promote them individually or the business. Well, the reason I open up the page and my social media in general is to get as much content on there as possible and give you the opportunity to share your outdoor adventures as well. Because to be honest, if you send it to me and I share it on my page, probably more people are going to see it on my page than they are on yours, just because I've worked hard to build up the page, and I've got a little bit of a following. So I encourage you to send pictures. Just post them directly to the page. Facebook is always changing, and so they change their way of how you can share the pictures. If nothing else, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com and attach the picture there. It'll be a better quality anyway. In fact, that's the best way to get in touch with me for anything. Your Ask Avery questions, your comments, your questions in general, or if you want to share a picture or a video on the page. If you can't figure out how to share it on the page directly, just send it to me in an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. But I've been saying that a lot of people have been sharing their fishing pictures. And I don't know if it's because we're having an exceptionally good year for ice conditions across the state, or if the fishing is just for some reason that much better this winter. But I am getting so many pictures of big, beautiful crappies, big, beautiful jumbo perch, big, beautiful walleye. It just seems like it's an exceptional winter for ice fishermen, and I think that's wonderful. I myself have not been on the ice this winter. As I will tell you straight up, I'm not much of an ice fisherman anymore. However, I've been jonesing to get out on the ice and go after some walleye. It won't be out on Saginaw Bay, not because I'm afraid of the ice out there, but to be honest with you, it's much more of a pragmatic excuse. I don't have the gear to get out there. In the summertime, I've got that big, beautiful angler quest that I can get out there and fish whenever I want. In the wintertime, I don't have a quad. I don't have a sled. I don't have an Argo. I don't have a way of getting out on the ice. And it just seems like, I got to be honest with you, so much work to get out there and chase those walleye. Is it worth it? Absolutely. In many people's minds, it is. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do, and I'm going to tag along with my buddy Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, is just walk down on the river. The access is easy. The ice conditions on the river are good right now. The river is full of fish, a lot of small ones, but you're going to start to get the bigger females coming up in there soon. So that's something that is certainly, I would be surprised by the time we talk next week if I haven't done that. And that, listen, as much as I love open water trolling, there's nothing like having that rod in your hand when a fish hits. That's why I like drifting the river and jigging for walleye. There's nothing like having that rod in your hand when a fish hits. To the point where, I've had some people who are out trolling with me say, "Oh, I want to hold the rod in my hand when we're trolling." Well, okay, but not if we're running planer boards. It's not going to matter. You're not going to feel the fish hit anyway. What else? Steelhead fishing in the rivers. It's getting to be that time of year, isn't it? In fact, coming up after the break, we'll talk about that with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters out of Manistee, talking about late winter steelhead fishing and then moving into springtime steelhead fishing. Then Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group answers the question we get every year: if you drive your vehicle on the ice, is your insurance void? We'll talk to Karl about that and much more. Then in hour number 2, Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience talks about chasing big water walleye through the ice. And by the way, Jeff was very generous, and he donated a walleye fishing trip on Saginaw Bay to our Trinity Monitor Wild Game dinner. Tickets for that event are sold out. If you don't have a ticket for that Wild Game dinner and auction, you're not going to get one. However, what we've done this year to try to maximize people's ability to be involved in this event is we have added an online auction component. And some of the items that will be available as an online auction are a Detroit River walleye fishing trip with Captain Mark Pananzak, an upland bird hunt with Lori and Brian Stroick, a wreck broadheads, made a nice display case and several broadheads there that they're donating. Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy, a shoulder mount. Linwood Beach Marina is giving a launch pass for the year. Chef Dave Minar is offering up dinners at the restaurant. And that's just a quick example of the types of things that are available at that online auction. If you go to, if you go to my Facebook page, Mike Avery Outdoors on Facebook, there will be a link to that online auction where you can get involved and bid on these items. I would encourage you to do that. Also, going back to hour number 2 of this week's show, Nick Green of MUCC will check in. And then this week's Ask Avery segment. We'll wrap up hour number 2 with the Ask Avery segment. John Callison sent me an email after he saw a recent video I posted on YouTube about bear hunting. And he said, I want to know more about shooting outdoor videos. John is with the CMU Bass Fishing Club, and he wants to document his fishing adventures using video. We'll talk about that, even though, as I was thinking about it the other day, it has been 10 years since I produced an outdoor television show. 10 years. But I still have my hands in video, and I think I've got enough experience in telling stories using video that I'm qualified to answer that question. And in hour number 3, the Whitetail Whisperer. John Eberhart talks about post-season scouting, and of course we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. I don't know exactly what he's going to do for us this week, but he always has a great recipe. Again, if you want to reach out to me, if you want to get in touch with me, I encourage it. The email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Always reach out to me. Post your pictures on the Facebook page. Send me your pictures. Hey, let's share them. This is the wonderful outdoor lifestyle. We all have a passion for it. Let's share our pictures, our outdoor adventures, and hey, use my social media outlets to do it. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry for 76 years now. The company started out with a product called Ferrule Tight to glue broadheads to wooden and later aluminum arrow shafts. These days, Boning they just put a huge, expensive, extraordinarily high-tech manufacturing system into their plants. So after 76 years, they're not sitting back on their laurels. They're not sitting back and just riding into the sunset. These guys are working hard to come up with new products, new gear, new processes for target archers and bow hunters alike. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING.com, boning.com. While you are online, please head over to riversidecharters.com. Riversidecharters.com, the website of Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee. I've known Paul for a long time. And he recently did something, once again, very nice. He donated a springtime salmon and trout fishing trip on Lake Michigan to our Trinity Monitor wild game dinner. Paul, we greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. And how are you this morning?
I am doing good. I was supposed, beautiful day out, and I was supposed to go fishing, and one of the guys came down with COVID, so not fishing today.
See, I wondered what the deal is, because as I look out the window right now, it's warmer, the sun's shining, and I think, what a perfect morning to be on the river.
Oh, this would be a great morning. I mean, the river's just starting to thaw, and the fish haven't been messed with much, and during the week, it would have probably been a killer day, but kind of bummed. Not going, but is what it is.
You say the fish haven't been messed with much. What do you mean?
Well, all this cold weather we've had, at least in the Manistee River, the lower part's been froze up, and so those fish down there haven't really been fooled with much. The upper river's been hit pretty hard, but as the river starts to thaw, you can get down in kind of some areas where the fish haven't been messed with and because of the ice. So as it thaws, you can get down farther. And I'd imagine by the end of this week, it'll probably be opened up down below. So, but there should be some fresh fish coming in. So it's usually pretty good when you get in there, first guy or two.
Do the fish get, I hate to use this term, but do they get smart once they've been targeted for a while?
Yeah, they're kind of like deer. You start messing with them too much, they get harder to catch, But, it changes from day to day. You got fish moving around, and as a river gets warmer, the fish will start moving a lot more, and get different batches of fish coming in day to day. So this time of year, they don't move quite as much, I don't think, because of the cold water and low, clear water, so they're not moving as much.
So you'll get some steelhead that'll come in way back in the fall, and then they'll trickle in all over the winter. And then when do they really start to get a big rush in the springtime?
It could start happening here in the next week or two. We get some warm weather and spring-like weather. Fish will start, the lakes start thawing. It's kind of weather dictated. Some years it's later, some years it's earlier. Just kind of what the weather does, what kind of rain we get, and kind of dictates, I think, what them fish are going to do.
I feel like most everything we do in the outdoors is dictated by Mother Nature.
Pretty much, yeah. I would agree with that. Deer hunting, fishing,
yeah,
kind of a weather thing, winds and what the wind does and temperatures. And so that's kind of being outdoors what you deal with.
Yep. Is it water temp or water flow? Which one is more important in bringing in fish in the river time or in the river?
I mean, this time of year we catch them in cold water. So I've had really, really great days when the water was really cold, 32 degrees. But a flow, I think, will bring fresh fish in and get fish moving around more and get some color in the water and get the fish moving. And a lot of times that definitely will bring more fish in and get them. And and the rise of temperature, of course, helps too.
Man, Paul, you got a lot of different factors you're dealing with. You talked about water clarity, water temperature, water level, water flow. I mean,
it's always something, and where you're going to fish, if the river comes up, you'll go up higher. Some years we're fishing out in the lake, the fish won't come in. They stay, with the high water, we haven't had that problem the last few years, but probably, 10 years ago when we had the low water situations, a lot of those fish would hold back, wouldn't come up until we got some rain and some water, and the fish were all piled up in the lake. And but now the river's dropping, so I don't know what's going to happen this spring. The lake levels have really dropped.
Have they?
Yeah, at least down by where my marina is and the boat docks, it's dropped drastically from last fall.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's unreal how much it's dropped. I don't know I haven't measured it, but I should go down and measure it. But
no, it is crazy how much lake. I mean, and you think about how many gallons, how many millions of gallons it takes to bring it up or down an inch, and we see it going up several inches at a time or down. It's crazy.
Yeah, it exactly is. I think it's just so dictated how much rainfall we get and snow. We haven't really got much snow here, I don't think. Right by the lake we got more than we do inland, but we got some snow, but I don't know how much runoff we'll have. It just depends how fast it thaws and stuff. And, that can really mess up the river if we get a drastic thaw and rain and then snow, and it can really mess up the river big time.
How much does the river change from year to year? And by that I mean, if you've got a hole or a run, is it going to stay there for years? Log jams probably get moved around a little bit by the ice, don't they?
Yeah, we've got, at least in the Manistee River, a lot of issues with the ash trees are all dying, and there's a lot of trees falling in the river now. And a lot of my holes I used to catch a lot of fish out of, I can't even fish them anymore because of the trees falling and wrecked them. But it does make new holes too, some of the trees. So you just got to try to figure out what changes it. Because there's a lot of spots we've fished traditionally year to year, and it's always a good spot. And a tree falls in it, it changes it, kind of wrecks it. So, I got two spots that just kills me. I always got fish out of them, and I can't even fish them anymore. But,
wow.
But that's just the way it is. Trees falling and the current changing and water levels changing too.
Is a steelhead like a little brookie or a little brown? They like cover. These are fish who spent most of their time out in the open water of Lake Michigan with no real structure or cover, yet they come in the river, and do they relate to stuff like that?
Exactly. I think it's the way, in certain holes, the way the current is and the way they like it. I don't know, when they come in or they like certain spots, and you'll catch them in them spots year to year. It changes, of course, but because of trees falling, but yeah, they like structure. Definitely will get it up in the wood, and they definitely like to be protected, I think. They're a spooky fish, so. But it's got to try to figure out where they're going to be laying in certain spots, and sometimes that's right where all the wood is.
Do you feel like these fish you're chasing out in open water in the summertime, are they very similar to the? I mean, I know they are the same fish, but do they act like the same fish you get in the rivers, or are they like two completely different critters?
I don't know. I think they act like the same fish to me. I mean, steelhead are touchy fish. I mean, they can be really hard to catch sometimes, and I mean, in the big lake, they're the same way, too. I mean, it seems like they turn on a certain time of day, and it seems like it's that way in the river, too. Get them certain times of day is the best period. And it seems like the big lake's kind of like that sometimes, too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in the big lake, it's different because sometimes if we're targeting steelhead, we're looking for calmer weather. They like to feed on bugs, and it seems like that's when the best time to catch them, when the lake's calmer and not as rough. But we haven't been catching a lot of steelhead like we used to. Years ago, we used to really catch them out there. The lake's different than it used to be temperature-wise. It's just changed. We don't get the temperature breaks out there like we used to.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I don't hear about you guys making that 15, 20-mile run out to the scum line like I used to.
And we do some, but it's like years ago, back in the 80s and 90s, it was always traditionally the middle of June. You could count on fishing breaks offshore where you'd have a 10-degree change, and it'd be like a river out there. And them fish would be big time in that change of temperature, and we just don't get it like we used to. At least out of our port here. I've heard Wisconsin, they've been catching more steelhead than we've been, but we did get more steelhead last summer than we have in the last few years, but we're really not targeting them, though. But plus, on our river now, I mean, it's kind of good that we're not targeting them out there. Thank God we got salmon and lake trout. They have cut our limit down on our river for the spring. There's like 3-4 rivers that got cut down on their limit.
What did it go to?
It went to 1 fish per person.
Well, most of you guys are catch and release anyway, right?
Yeah, I try to be. Yeah, I try not to keep them. And if a guy wants to keep a fish, I try to talk him into keeping a male if we're having a good day and they catch I think the males are a better eating fish if you get a 6-8 pound male. But I try to promote catch and release. I don't like killing them personally.
What is a good day for you on the river, Paul? How many fish do you have to hook up to have what you would consider a good day?
Nowadays, if I can get each guy their 3 fish, I'd be happy. Average day, you get 4 to 6 fish landed. Some days, 10 hookups. Sometimes it's way better than that. Sometimes you hook 20 fish if you hit the right day. When you're fishing every day, you're going to hit those days where you kill them. But it hasn't been that way the last few years. I mean, the last time I went out fishing, it was last week. We got landed 6, so it's a good day in my book anymore.
Sure.
But I would say 3 to 6 fish. If I can get each guy a fish and then go from there, I'm happy. It seems like most people are happy with that. So. And
what determines like how many fish you hook versus how many you bring to the boat? Is that pretty much strictly on the experience of your anglers?
It can be, yeah. I mean, definitely a guy that's better on the rod and you're not getting slack and setting the hook, and definitely makes a difference. And then some days I think the fish they're grabbing it better than other days, so you have better hookups certain days than others. And, some days you just seem like you lose a lot, and I think they're just not grabbing it real good. And I don't know. It kind of changes from day to day.
We're talking with
the clients definitely make a difference. You try to teach them what to do, and that's most of the people that fish with me have never done it before. So I got guys that come every year, but most of them, a lot of new people. I get a lot of new people, so you got to try to teach them it and what to do and on the hook sets and follow up on the hook set and stuff.
I want to follow up on that, Paul. We're talking with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com out of Manistee. He's a very well-known and very, very well-respected big water Lake Michigan charter captain, and also in the rivers as a fishing guide there as well. I mean, the guy grew up on the water, and he knows how to catch fish. riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine, speaking of the UP, is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. Chris Durson of Rapid River Knife Works does a wonderful job. I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I do every time I'm sitting here in front of this microphone, and I do everywhere. I mean, think about it. How often do you reach for a knife? How often do you use it? I use mine several times a day, and I'm very proud to carry a Rapid River knife, handmade by Michigan craftsmen from the UP. I can't stress strongly enough. This is honestly the nicest knife, the most well-known, well-built knife I've ever owned. Check out their showroom if you get a chance, just east of Rapid River on US 2. And if you can't make it up there, go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. I'm telling you, get one of these knives or several, and you will not be disappointed. You also will not be disappointed, I promise you this, if you book a trip with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com, either in the river this late winter, early spring, or out in the big water next summer. Paul has been out there as long as anybody, and he's very generous. And bring him on here if you would, Charlie. Paul, I got to tell you, every time... Well, you know this, but I'm telling our listeners, every time I have ever asked you if you are interested in donating a trip to one of the causes I get involved in, you're always very, very generous, Paul, and I really appreciate that. No
problem, Mike. You've always been good to me, too. So, it goes around, comes around.
Well, I appreciate it. I want to talk more about your clients. Now, who fishes with you? I know you get people like the Grillos, Butch and Nick Grillo, who'll come up there several times a year, but I don't believe they're your average. Who's your average customer?
I get a variety of, I get some new people, have never done it before, but then you get the guys that come year to year, they annual trip, it's like once a year they'll come, or you get guys like Grills that fish, a lot. So, I got a few people like that. But you got a percentage of new clients that never done it before, and you book them, and, you get a new experience for them. Never done steelhead fishing or, out in the big water fishing. So, it's kind of a variety of different clients, and from all over the part of the country, too.
Yeah, everybody wants to come to Lake Michigan. I feel like sometimes those of us who live here don't realize, or we forget, what we have. People come from all over the country to take advantage of what we have.
Exactly. It's a lot of water in Michigan, so it's a lot of fish to be caught.
Is it more rewarding for you to have this group of people on the boat who have been there before, who know how to do it to make it easier for you physically during the day, or to have a group of newbies you have to work harder, but this is a brand new experience you're sharing with them?
It's easier when you got your regular customers, that's for sure. They know the program. A lot of times it's very rewarding, people catching their first fish, they, experience that, and they get really excited. And so, that part of it is, it's awesome, being in the job. And you meet a lot of people in the business. That's what's cool about, being in this business. You do meet a lot of different people from all over. So a lot of them become really good friends. And some of my best friends are people who fish with me. So, that's what it becomes. Your clients become really good friends.
Well, and you've got to be a people person, like you said. You get out there on Lake Michigan, and it's a little bit bumpy, and the fish aren't cooperating, and you got people who paid good money, and they're going to be out there 4 hours. Man, the pressure's on you, right? It's up to you to show them a good time, regardless of what our friend Mother Nature wants to throw at you.
Yeah, that's the downfall of the job, is the pressure of producing. That part's always kind of bothered me, and I think most captains it does. There's definitely a pressure effect in that when you're trying to produce fish, and especially if the fish aren't there. A lot of times the fish are just disappeared because of the weather. So that part, makes it tough in the job. But that's probably the least part I don't like being a captain is that. Catching fish.
Is there still room out there for somebody to become a full-time charter captain these days, or has the business evolved into you know what, man, you're better off to keep your full-time job and charter on the side?
I mean, it depends what the person's situation is. I mean, it's kind of hard to get into it. It's really got to be your passion. I got my son-in-law into it. I mean, he kind of grew up, my daughter married him, and he likes to fish, and he's leaning to do it full time. So I mean, he's the guy that's going to do it. I mean, he's getting help from me, of course, but a guy can do it. They just got to have a lot of drive. And I mean, I always have chartered. I always did different side things on the side too. I had a motel, and I've done really well with that. And I did taxidermy on the side. I don't do it as much anymore, but through the years I did that. So that was my winter stuff when I wasn't fishing. So I mean, I did have a little bit of side things going on to supplement my income. Mm-hmm. It fell in good with the charter business.
Well, you've built up a tremendous name for yourself, Paul, and I would encourage people to go to the website, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. There you can find out how to get in touch with Paul. You can find out what the different type of fishing trips he offers, the rates. I think you can even book a trip online. And I'll tell you what, he is one of the best out there. If you're looking for somebody on Lake Michigan or in the Manistee River for salmon, trout, he's really one of the guys that you should look at. And when people say, hey, Avery, who do you recommend? I mean, I got several buddies over there, but Paul is always on that list and right at the top of that list of people I recommend. His name is Paul Schlafley, Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, check in with Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group, answering the question we always get about what happens when you drive your truck on the ice. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO. That's 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Family-owned, Michigan-based VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. VersaSkins they make high quality, very good hunting clothes. But here's the catch. When you change seasons, when you go from firearm deer season to, say, predator hunting, you snap on and zip on a different colored outer shell. So you don't have to go through the expense of buying a whole new hunting suit. The website, versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. You heard in that commercial here, in the last commercial in the break, about the Ieuter Insurance Group. I deal with the folks at Ieuter, and I have for many years for my personal insurance needs and my business insurance needs as well. And, I got to be honest, insurance is not really a sexy topic. It's not like we're out trying to shoot a big buck or we're chasing steelhead or whatever. But you've got an awful lot of money tied up in your hunting and fishing gear. And what would you do if somehow you had to replace it all? Karl Ieuter is one of my guys at the Ieuter Insurance Group, and he's on the end of the Outdoor Magazine phone line now. Karl, welcome back. How are you?
Thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing real good. Listen, always a pleasure to talk with you, Karl. And you know the question I've got for you right off the bat, because I ask you this every year at this time. And the question is, if you drive your truck out onto the ice, is your coverage void?
It is not void if you do not. So you would have coverage, assuming you have full coverage on your car.
Is that going to vary from insurance company to insurance company, agent to agent, or is that a blanket statement?
Every insurance company could be different, but we deal with 20-plus companies, and I've never seen an exclusion for driving on the ice. So, I mean, it's always safer to check with your agent if there's some weird company out there that has exclusion, but 99% of the companies, there's no exclusion for driving on the ice.
So if you deal with a reputable company, a reputable agent, you should be good to go.
Yep. You just want to make sure you have full coverage, because if it goes through the ice, you want to be covered.
What about recovery costs, Karl? Is that somehow covered, or is that on us?
That's going to be very company to company, but most policies have towing, and whatever your limit is, probably not going to be enough to recover that. So, a lot of them is like $100. So it could be a lot more to recover a car out of the lake. So you might not be fully covered to get it out, and some of that might come out of your pocket. So make sure that ice is thick enough before you go out there.
That's the best advice right there, isn't it?
Yep. Yes, it is.
What about?
I mean, that would even apply to like snowmobiles. I was actually up last weekend. I took the ice bridge for the first time over to Mackinac Island, and make sure you have full coverage on your snowmobiles, because if they go under, there would be coverage there also.
Oh, tell me more about this trip across the straits.
Oh, it was amazing. It's been on my bucket list for a while, but it's you read some scary stories, so you want to make sure you follow the trees, and the locals say the ice is good. But seeing Mackinac Island in the winter is quite amazing. 2 restaurants open. There wasn't a lot of snow, but there was enough to get over there and ride around the island. So
what is there? There's a path across the ice marked somehow?
Yep, from St. Ignace. So they the locals, when it's safe enough, they come and drill holes and put Christmas trees in it. So the biggest advice I've read and I followed greatly is follow those trees and do not go anywhere else.
And probably take more than one sled across, right? Go as a group.
Yep. And then, and don't stop. So, you get some open water, full throttle.
So what's the island like? I mean, do they allow snow machines there in the wintertime?
Yeah. So, we were able to, there were a couple areas kind of by the arch that were marked off for cross-country skiing only, but I could circle the island and, go through the middle and, go right by the Grand Hotel. And then we ate downtown. There were just 2 restaurants open, but it was, most of us have been there in the summer when there's thousands of people. But, there are quite a few sleds there, but it was just a different experience.
Karl, I when I called you to ask you to be on the show, I had no idea you'd done this. So this is kind of a bonus. This is a good story. I appreciate it.
Well, I definitely, if the ice is safe, I definitely recommend it, because it's a incredible experience.
And quick, before I let you go, I always talk about Ieuter being, your outdoor-related, outdoor-oriented insurance company. You guys, you do kind of fill that niche, don't you?
Yeah, yep. Really anything outdoor-related insurance we can help you with. Whether you're a guide, hunting lodge, fishing guide, hunting range, name it, outdoors, we can help you. Cover your equipment, cover your liability.
Ieuter has you covered. Thank you, Karl Ieuter. I appreciate it. The website, Ieuter.com, IEUTER, Ieuter.com, Ieuter.com. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show for the top of the hour. When we come back, let's continue on this ice fishing, or this ice theme, with Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, talking about trophy walleye fishing on what is the hottest wintertime fishery in the state right now, Saginaw Bay. And then Nick Green of MUCC checks in with an update out of Lansing. And this week's Ask Avery segment, kind of some suggestions on telling story with video and how you can get started, coming up in hour number 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
And welcome to hour number 2 of this week's radio show, the Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And why do I make that distinction? You might say, well, of course it's a radio show. Well, there's a lot of confusion these days, because I'll hear from people on a regular, routine, weekly basis from folks who are listening to their local radio station, and they refer to the program as a podcast. Yeah, I heard your podcast on WSTW. Well, no, you didn't. You heard the radio show. And I realize I'm overly sensitive to this. I get it. I understand. You don't care. And I appreciate that, but I still feel obligated somewhat just to make the distinction that Outdoor Magazine Radio is first and foremost a radio show. I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local radio station. But isn't it nice to know there's a podcast version of the show? I mean, everybody's got a podcast. I love podcasts. I think they're absolutely wonderful. But I'd like to make the distinction that this is a syndicated outdoor radio show because there just aren't that many of them out there. And that, I think, in some ways kind of sets it apart a little bit. But if you can't listen to the broadcast version of the radio show, you can hear the podcast. The podcast is uploaded. They say drop. The podcast has been dropped. No, it hasn't. You upload them. Why do you say it's been dropped? It's been uploaded. I upload the podcast every Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, my Facebook page. You can hear it on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, yada, 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 Deezer, Odyssey, right on down to YouTube. Yes, it's audio only, sound only, but I put a version of it on YouTube every week, and people listen to it there. Also, while I'm talking about podcasting, a blatant promotional plug for the Outdoor Magazine Podcast Network. Every month, I produce podcasts for offshore tackle, angler quest boats, primal tree stands, and polar craft boats. And when we're done today here, Charlie and I in the studio will record actually the March. Think about that, the March edition of the Angler Quest podcast. So keep an ear out for that. I would appreciate it. So I've been seeing a lot of pictures of trophy walleye, beautiful walleye. And some of them have come out of the Yup, but most of them have come off from Saginaw Bay. I get accused, and this is a valid complaint, that I do tend to talk quite a bit about Saginaw Bay. There are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's my home water. It's where I spend the bulk of my time. I jump on the Angler Quest and I head out and I chase walleye on Saginaw Bay. But the other reason that I am enamored with the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery is that, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest conservation success stories in my lifetime. I've watched that body of water go from a fishery that was depleted of walleye because of pollution and overharvesting by commercial fishermen to a world-class walleye fishery. Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, the MichiganExperience.com. He happens to be based out of the Linwood Beach Marina on Saginaw Bay. In my opinion, is one of the best Saginaw Bay walleye anglers out there. And there are a bunch, and I know many of them, and no disrespect to any of my friends who are out there, but I think Jeff Godi is one of the best. I also think he's one of the best because, as I was talking about Paul Schlafley in hour number one, Jeff Godi also stepped up when I said, Jeff, you interested in donating a fishing charter this summer to the Trinity Dinner? He said, absolutely, I'm in. So I appreciate that. And I want to talk to Jeff about ice fishing as well. And he graciously has given me some time, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Cap, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Always a pleasure. And again, thanks for your generosity in donating that trip to our Trinity Monitor dinner.
You bet. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and we're going to see you there that night too, right? I got a couple of tickets for you.
That is the game plan. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Excellent. So listen, you're out there all summer long running trolling trips on the bay. Do you run ice charters on the bay?
I did up until about 2 years ago. Then I let that go, and now fun fishing with family and friends and really enjoying that.
I bet that takes a lot of pressure off.
I joked about my daughter, Haley. I said she doesn't pay very well, but man, is she fun to fish with. So, yeah, I'm enjoying that part of it. Still doing the chartering in the summer and, the waterfowl guiding, but this has turned into the fun aspect for me, and I really love it.
Why did you get out of ice fishing? Was it the fact that you couldn't rely on the ice on a yearly basis?
Well, yeah, there was some of that, equipment, investments, stuff like that. And, my role here at the Marina, I'm helping Scott and the guys out at the Marina here. So this is, it's a time of year when we're kind of doing the boat thing. And, yeah, it was easy to let that go. And my passion for the ice fishing didn't run as deep as it does for the charter fishing and the duck hunting. So, yeah, a little more time at home as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. As we are recording the show right now, midweek, Wednesday morning, and I know this and you know this, and I want our listeners to know this, that ice conditions can change on an hourly basis. I did hear as of this morning, there's a pretty good crack about 100 yards offshore, but in general, ice conditions on the bay are pretty darn good this year, aren't they?
We went out yesterday. We traveled about 5 miles east out of Linwood here, and aside from that one little gap that's pretty close to shore, there was no problems. And we had a couple of us on quads. We just kind of shopped for a spot and got across. And, we're on our way. So the rest of the travel seemed pretty good, but a little wind from a certain direction can change everything. So we were on our toes, but it was a little bumpy, but it was nice traveling where we went.
What is this crack? Because a lot of people aren't going to understand this. The locals all know what I'm talking about, but what is this infamous crack that almost always forms on Saginaw Bay?
Well, the one we have now is actually pretty close. Just outside the Marina, running north and south. Typically, we get a pretty good one out, maybe at 10 foot, and then we'll have another one out farther. My daughter even commented the other day that the big one we crossed last week had healed up pretty good, and that was in deeper water. That was probably 17 to 18 foot of water. So things change, but the infamous crack, as you call it, there's usually one out in front of us, a mile and a half, 2 miles out, and that, at least as of yesterday, which was Tuesday night, that one was in good shape.
So you're looking, at least right now, you're going out there pretty deep.
We fished. We found a couple of humps and tried to get on some structure yesterday. So we were in about 20 foot of water. We went out of here east and probably a little southeast actually.
You talk about humps. Could these be the same humps that you marked in the summertime trolling? You just go back to them now? Certainly.
Yep. We were in that sailboat buoy area. There's quite a bit of structure in there, dumping grounds area, stuff like that. So. A lot of room there, and some of the group got on some fish. I'm going to seek some therapy. I'm having a tough year getting them out of the hole. So maybe I may make a few calls after we get off the line here. But even my daughter's out fishing them. So.
Well, you said Captain Jason. You said Captain Jason Graham will give you some suggestions, some tips.
Oh, he has been. Trust me. Yeah, I've been between him and Scott and some of the boys. I've got a lot of help here. Hopefully they can talk me through it.
I bet you do. You got a great crew there at Linwood Beach Marina, though, don't you?
We do, Mike. Man, just good people. I think I've been here, 13, 14 years associated with the gang here. And, just a good group. And, our goal is, facilitating the fun. That's what we do. So. I think we all have a common goal, and we're trying to make as many people as happy as we can.
I always say Linwood Beach Marina is your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, including the wintertime. Now, you can jump off from shore a lot of different places, but if you're coming in from outside the area and don't know where the access is, a lot of people take off from Linwood Beach, don't they?
They do. Yeah, the end of the road has some parking there. I probably should do a count one day and see how many vehicles can park there right at the end of Linwood Road. And then we've got room. We're doing $5 for parking on the property here, and I know we can fit a couple hundred vehicles here.
And are you seeing, are people coming to that fishery from across the state?
Oh, yeah. It's too bad we don't have a designation on a license plate, but, that we get the west side of the state. We've talked about the reverse migration. We go west to chase salmon. They come east to chase the walleye. And we get a lot of folks that will drive 2-3 hours, come over here and get on this ice and chase those walleye in the wintertime. So it's great. The local economy benefits, obviously, Frank's, Linwood Party Store, the businesses here in town, the restaurants and bars, so, and the hotels, motels. So it's a good thing. And, like you said earlier, we went from a tough walleye thing many, many years ago to, wow, they're here. And the size, you were mentioning the size of these fish.
Hang on. Yeah, I want to talk more about that, but I got to take a break here, Jeff. We're talking to Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience. His website is themichiganexperience.com, themichiganexperience.com. Don't look to book an ice trip with Jeff, but you can certainly book an open water trolling trip this spring, summer, and early fall, and a waterfowl trip in the fall as well. Themichiganexperience.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Taos on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM, 580 AM. And you can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ, 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. I love that. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. I bring up Linwood Beach because my guest right now, Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, is based out of Linwood Beach. And Jeff, before the break, we started to get into this, and this is a direction I wanted to go anyway. Is the fishing on Saginaw Bay exceptionally good this year, or is the ice just good enough that the folks have access to get out there and enjoy it?
I think it's both. We've got decent ice. Some folks from here are traveling, 10, 12 miles from here to get to spots, some of those traditional deep water spots we fish in the summer. And the fish are biting this year. And that seems to be a little different than last year. We had a condensed season, and it was a tough bite last year. So I think we've got a couple of good things happening. We've got decent ice, and these fish are snapping. So yeah, it's the perfect storm. And man, the size of these fish, the frenzy weigh in. The first week, everything, the 4 big fish were over 10 pounds. Just this morning, that's for the Linwood Frenzy, 14.56 went on the board.
14?
0.5, yeah, a gentleman by the name of Keith Bryce, I see. So, yeah, that's a big fish.
That's a big fish.
Yeah, the number 2 fish is 12.6, so that guy's got to be thinking, man, I had it, and somebody just took it away.
Holy cow. Did you see that fish, Jeff?
I did saw a picture of it, yes. I saw a picture. So, that's, I think about the 8-inch hole I use in the shanty, and I'm thinking, I don't know if that's coming through there. Might have to get the bigger auger if these fish are out there. And, Jason and I were talking this morning about, tackle, and man, guy better make sure he's got his stuff tightened up, good line, and make sure the equipment can handle these bigger fish, because it seems like there's a few big fish out here this year.
I keep expecting either out of Lake Erie or Basdenach or maybe Saginaw Bay or one of the drowned river mouths on the west side of the state. If we get a new state record walleye, it wouldn't surprise me. It's been out there a long time.
Yeah, I agree. So, these numbers are creeping up, and who knows? That'd be something. That would. Linwood's on the map, but that would really make it solid.
Hey, where are all these fish? These big, beautiful fish that you guys are catching now? Where are they in the summertime when we're out trolling and we're struggling? Not struggling, but we're sometimes getting catches of 13 to 15-inch fish.
They're pretty migratory. Some of the studies I've seen, there was a transmitter fish 2 years in a row, if I remember it right from the study, up to the Straits and then back. So, the transmitter was inserted on the tip of the Wassee there by the dam, and they had tracked this fish up to the Straits and back 2 years in a row, which just baffles me. I don't know why a fish would go that far, but yeah, they travel around the thumb. They come out of the bay. I believe they said close to 90% of those fish were in Saginaw Bay around the December time period, if I'm recalling this correctly. So, they start to stage, but they'll slide out of here as that water, post spawn. May, June, some of those big fish. There are some that stick around as well.
Wow, what's it take to catch those walleye this time of year? First of all, what kind of gear, what kind of rig do you need to get out there on the ice?
Snowmobiles are the most popular. If you're crossing a crack, you have your skis up front and your tracks, so you've got a little more surface area. A lot of quads running around. I see in the morning here when the guys are taking off, some of the guys will actually take their loading ramps and they get on the trailer and the foldable ones, take them out there with them just in case. So, snowmobile is probably the number one mode of transportation. And then, quads, you see some side-by-sides. There's a picture of Scott and I in a Suburban out there from quite a few years ago. So, we had some great ice that year, obviously. But, it can look some days like Mad Max beyond the Thunderdome. Whatever, if it's rolling and can move and tow a shanty, it's out there.
Yeah, I would think a shanty. You get out there, a shanty is really not necessary, but certainly desirable.
Yeah, it definitely makes it comfortable, but it can also, kind of stick you to a spot. The more gear you got setting up and set up times and stuff, maybe on a time you should be moving, you tend to stay put because you got to tear down and reset. So on nice days, it's kind of fun to make a little plan and run around and, have a couple maybe predetermined spots on GPS and go from one to the other until you find what you're looking for. But those are those no-wind days when it's 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Those are fun days to be out there. Sitting on a seat.
How much time will you give a spot before you move?
Under those conditions, we might say, look, we're going to stay here for a half hour, an hour. If we're not marking, we're not catching, we'll talk about on to the next spot. And then sometimes you set up. Scott and I planned a couple years ago to have 3 spots. Sat on the first spot. He was marking fish. I caught a fish. I said, I'm not going anywhere the rest of the night. They're here. And when the time, when the sun hits the trees, it should go haywire, and it did.
So is it a low light fishery, or can you catch them midday too?
Ice fishing tends to be a little more low light. Where summer fishing, it doesn't matter. But, I've heard some great catches midday this year, on the ice. So, summertime, to me, it just doesn't matter. If this is a low light fish, I'm not buying it because, we catch them in shallow water and bright sun in the summertime. But ice fishing, I would say, if I had time of day to go, I'd go in the afternoon, evening for sure.
So what's your tackle setup? What length of rod are you using? What pound test?
I'm running an 8-pound leader, and then run a little heavier braided line. I got a swivel, between the two, so you can change that leader out every once in a while. Try to run a snap to my lure, and then rod length. Gosh, I bought them so long ago, I can't even think of how long that rod is. Spinning reel, obviously checking the drag all the time, making sure if we get something nice that we don't snap them off, but yet not so loose that you can't get keep steady pressure on these fish.
I hear mixed reports on braided line in the wintertime, though. Some people say it freezes up and causes problems.
Yeah, if I'm fishing outside the shanty, mono for sure. Okay. Inside the shanty, I like the braid. So that's how I do that. Dead sticks, like a slip bobber. Tip ups, I've always been a fan of those. Just trying to maximize. If there's 2 of us, I try to have six lines in the water. There's 2 people. Between tip ups, been fiddling around with the jaw jacker. It trips and kind of sets the hook. It's fun to bring a fish in on that, but in harsh weather, all that stuff's above the ice, whereas a tip-up has a spool below the ice. And it tends to work better when it's really cold. But I just need somebody to set the hook and reel it in. This year's just not going well for me.
Tip-ups and dead sticks, are you setting the bait right on the bottom then?
I was fiddling around yesterday, and I'm usually foot and a half trying to get that minnow a foot and a half off the bottom. And I had a couple staggered ones yesterday and got bit on both. So, yeah, just change, put it down there. If you're marking fish, you're not getting bit, try something different. And they're notorious for coming in. When you set everything down to eat a sandwich or something, I mean, as soon as you set everything down and it's still, here comes that fish. And yesterday, as soon as I grabbed that rod to give it a twitch, there goes that fish. So. It's a video game. Jason's been running without electronics,
Old school.
And yeah. And he's been doing extremely well. So we tend to change when the fish comes in, whatever you're doing jigging, when you see that fish, then you tend to maybe get excited or nervous or whatever and change what you're doing. And that fish came in there for a reason. You were doing something right to bring him in. And then, then it's just up to us not to goof it up.
When you see the fish, do you mean on your electronics or looking down through the hole?
The water we're fishing, I typically don't see them there. We're in that 17 and 20 foot of water. If you do stare down there, some days, I mean, you can see your bait moving around. But yeah, on the electronics, when they come in on electronics, my daughter is having a blast, like a little video game. I said, when you see this big red, yellow caterpillar come on the screen, it's go time. So it's fun. I really enjoy fishing with Haley, having a ball.
Do you have a sense how far you can bring a fish into the hole from?
You mean like off the bottom, bring them up?
No, from like 10 yards off to the side, 100 yards. What do you think?
With the water clarity, but I don't. Some guys are running some Panoptics where they're dropping that down and looking off to the side. They might have a good idea of, fish reacting to their bait, but I don't know. I don't run a camera, so I really don't know where they're at. When you see them on the screen, you think, they're, they've got to be within 10 feet, or so, depending, probably closer than that. But yeah, I don't know how far those fish react to that bait.
This new generation of electronics, these Panoptics and stuff, man, they are something else.
It is. I think I'm getting too old for that.
Aren't we all? Do you think there's a trolling application for that type of electronics, or is it more for casting or ice fishing?
I've heard casting, ice fishing. I'm not sure if it would keep up with the trolling speed. If anything, maybe these early spring trollers would have some input on that. That cold water and the low trolling speed. But I don't know enough about it. I'm a pretty simple electronics guy. So. Yeah, I don't know, but they say it's pretty. I got to jump in the shanty with somebody that's got that Panoptics. I want to see it. I haven't personally seen it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'd love to see it. Jeff, always a pleasure. Appreciate your insight into that Saginaw Bay trophy walleye fishery, and I would send people to the website, themichiganexperience.com, to book a springtime or summertime trip with you out there on Saginaw Bay.
Great. Mike, can I do a happy birthday, Haley? My daughter's 21 today.
21? You're not old enough to have a 21-year-old daughter.
I don't act old enough.
Captain Jeff Godi, and happy birthday, Haley. Captain Jeff Godi of the Michigan Experience, themichiganexperience.com, based out of Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC. I'll give another website, mucc.org. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me. But my outdoor getaway is covered with snow right now. It won't be forever, though, right? And it is not too early to get in touch with the folks at Reader to schedule your springtime and summertime projects. And if you have decided you've just had enough of taking care of your own snow removal, the folks from Reader can help you out there as well. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. while you are online, head on over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then check out MUCC.org. MUCC.org, the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Nick Green is their Chief Information Officer with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, listen, it was really nice to come down and see you and Executive Director Amy Trotter. We talk so much on the phone and on the air here, but we don't get a chance to really meet in person. And I thought it was a great meeting, and I'm excited about some of the things we've got coming up.
Yeah, it was refreshing. You know, we've had a couple of years of COVID and, you know, just not seeing folks, and it's nice to finally see some faces again. Yeah,
and one of the things we're talking about is having Amy Trotter, MUCC Executive Director, join me for a Wednesday Night Live once a quarter starting in March, and I think that'll be a really good segment.
Yeah, I really hope it gives your listeners kind of the ability to learn a little bit more about Michigan United Conservation Club. You know, ask Amy those tough questions about resolutions and policies. You know, she's used to getting hammered by legislators and commissioners. She can handle your viewers. Yeah, I mean, and really try to learn a little bit more about the organization and the work that we do.
Well, listen, first of all, before I get off track here, anything going on newsworthy or that you want to get a word out about right now?
Yeah, so when this airs, we'll have had our February Natural Resources Commission meeting. They are proposing expanding bobcat trapping and hunting in the northern lower. This won't really have a biological impact, and really we support it when there's expanded opportunity. And at the end of the day, we're talking about bobcats range expanding, which is why we're able to do this. So it's really a success and a conservation success story.
Talking about biology, and this is a follow-up on a conversation we had in person. And this could be an entire hour conversation, so it's not fair to ask you, but isn't it interesting how social science is now becoming involved in wildlife management decisions?
Yeah, I think it always has been to an extent, but you know, as we've talked about, our rivers aren't on fire anymore. We're just not trying to get phosphorus out of laundry detergent. We're not trying to tackle those big issues. So I think we got to start to look at things now about how people use the resource, and if there isn't a net biological change, we got to figure out what we're going to do with that. And MUCC doesn't have a resolution on the matter, but we need to start talking about it. How are we going to think about these things when we look at social versus biological?
Biology's always got a trump, though, right? The good of the resource has to be number one.
Absolutely. I mean, I would never suspect our membership passing a resolution that didn't start with, if there is no negative biological implication. Like, that's the bare necessity for us to even talk about social regulations.
We talk about your MUCC resolutions. What authority, what power do those have?
They carry kind of great weight internally, so those are our marching orders. Those are kind of the staff directives. And then throughout the years, we've passed thousands of bills and helped to pass resolutions and wildlife conservation orders. So it really depends on what the issue it is, but it can go all the way up as becoming a law, and the member being at the bill signing with the governor.
Well, when you as MUCC go to the governor or the DNR or the NRC and you say, yes, this is a resolution, but we've got all of these people behind it, it does obviously carry some weight.
It does. Really, as an MUCC member in the resolution is kind of our lobbying ability, our relationships, our backroom conversations that we're able to have with policymakers and rule makers. We're able to do that oftentimes before the sausage gets made. And what that helps us do is effectively kind of work through issues, work through problems, adapt, amend things, and then be sure that when the final product is there, our fingerprints are on it. So that's kind of that's the biggest benefit of an MUCC resolution, is that you've helped the organization kind of derive its policy on this matter, and then we've worked through the whole thing, ensuring that your voice had some, effect on the final outcome, whatever it may be.
And there aren't a lot of avenues or options or venues in today's world where somebody can feel like they're actually making a difference. And I think you guys provide that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate that.
Nick Green of MUCC, the website mucc.org, mucc.org. If you want to save 25% and sign up to be an MUCC member, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE. And if you are signing up to join MUCC for the first time, you can save 25%. How cool is that? We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment. And it's a question sparked by a listener to the show and a guy who watches my Wednesday Night Lives religiously. His name is John Callison, and he wants to know about telling stories with video. Now, I haven't done this professionally for about 10 years now, but I did it for a long time, and I still think I have some insight into this. So we'll talk about that coming up, wrapping up this week's hour number 2 of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM, and you can hear us in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works is this is your chance to pose a question to me directly or use me as a conduit to get a question to someone else, maybe the DNR or MUCC or something like that. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email. The address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's what John Callison did. Now, John is, he's either the president or the vice president of the CMU Bass Fishing Club, and he's very active on social media, and he posts a lot of pictures. But his question is regarding video, and it came about after I posted a piece I had done on bear hunting in Ontario, and I put it up on YouTube. And I got very good response to that, and a lot of people enjoyed it. But John says, hey, what video editing program did you use for that? And I told him I use Final Cut Pro, but I'm getting ahead of myself here now. And it got me thinking that this whole concept of telling stories with video, and I still get this question a lot. Again, I haven't done a TV show in 10 years, but I'm still involved in video, and it's one of the few things I have a fair amount of experience in. So some things to keep in mind. It's easier today than ever. It used to be, years ago, that if you wanted to tell a story on video, you had to have all this expensive gear and these expensive cameras, as expensive editing systems, and then you had to find some place to put it. You know, other than show it on a white sheet on your wall in your living room, there weren't that many options. These days, the gear is ridiculous. The outlets are so easy. And I'm thinking specifically of something like YouTube. If you want to get into this whole concept of documenting your outdoor adventures and experiences, for free, you can start yourself a YouTube channel and post videos up there. It doesn't cost you anything. As far as the gear for cameras and stuff, I mean, I shoot 90% of the video that I use these days is shot on my iPhone. It is ridiculously high quality. It is far better video quality than anything I ever used on a professional level. And it's in my pocket. It's with me all the time. So, yes, you might eventually want a camera with a longer lens. I'll get to that in a minute. If you're serious about video, shoot in a horizontal format, which means hold your iPhone sideways. If you're just screwing around and you want to do TikTok videos and you don't care how goofy you look, hold your phone straight up and down. If you are serious about shooting video, shoot it in a horizontal format. Hold your phone sideways because all video cameras shoot in a horizontal format. But don't hesitate to use your cell phone. It's with you already and it's high quality. Other options, GoPros. Everybody's got a GoPro laying around. They're wonderful. The video quality is only so-so. They're very wide angle. Do not expect to put a GoPro up in your tree stand with you and record video of you shooting a deer at 30 yards. No, that's not what they're designed for. But if you take that GoPro and turn it around and point it at you, you can get some excellent video of you in a tree stand. Same thing with Tacticams. I've got a Tacticam now that I put on my dart and crossbow. I really like it. It gives me another angle to use. You're going to eventually, though, need some kind of another camera. A camera to let you zoom in on your critters, whether they're turkeys or bears or deer or whatever. Because your cell phone just won't zoom in enough to get good video. You don't have to get an expensive camera. You could go to Walmart or Best Buy or Costco and buy a $200 HD video camera these days that, again, shoots better quality than anything I used to use. They record on an SD card. Just make sure it shoots like 1080p or, high def. The thing you're looking for there is the longest optical zoom you can find. I don't care if it says 100 power digital. That's not going to do you any good. At least 10 power optical, maybe 20 power is better, but the longest optical zoom you can find, because you're going to need that eventually if you want to zoom in on wildlife. And finally, for editing that video, if you're going to tell a story, and that's the whole idea here, right, is telling a story using video. If you're going to tell a story, you're going to have to edit what you shoot. I don't care how careful or judicious you are in the field, your video is going to need to be edited. John's question to me is, what do I use? Well, I use Final Cut Pro, but that's a professional level video editing system that I've used for years and years. iMovie is free. That'll do a wonderful job. I guess there's something out there called Lightworks that's also free. But just play around with it. Don't be afraid to experiment. We have the tools these days to shoot high-quality video literally at our fingertips any day of the week. We have free editing software, and we have outlets and venues to share it like YouTube and other social media like never before. So if you're interested in this type of thing, this is the time to do it, and you can do it very, very inexpensively. Thank you, John Callison, for bringing up that topic, and thank you to my friends at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart, coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. We are here for 3 hours every week talking about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still enjoy it. I absolutely love it. One of the best things about this experience is being able to talk with people who are at the very top of their field. I mean, the very top. Expert hunters, expert anglers, expert trappers, expert shooters. People who have taken their passion for the outdoors and developed it to a level that I certainly would never dream of, and that most of you either can't do or aren't willing to. And that's the difference that I see. Most of us are not willing to put in the work, myself included, the work that it takes to become very, very good, the top of the heap at our hunting and fishing adventures. For me, I get as much enjoyment out of just going out there and approaching it from a casual perspective. You know, if things go well, they do. If not, that's okay. But I have a lot of respect for those people who have really, really taken it to the top tier. And I'm blessed that I get a chance to talk to these people here on the radio show. Right now, I'm thinking about a man that I call the Whitetail Whisperer. His name is John Eberhart. He is a legend in the whitetail world. He has killed more trophy bucks by just going up to somebody's door and asking permission to hunt. Sometimes very small pieces of land. A lot of times in places you'd never figure there were big bucks. But he has this ability, number one, to get access to these spots, but once he's on there, to figure them out, to dissect them, and to target big bucks. And he's been extraordinarily successful. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mr. Whisperer, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I'm not going to be able to walk through my door. My head won't fit.
Is there anything I said that's not true, though?
Well, to keep my ego out of it, no, I think it's pretty much all true. There was one thing you said. Your show is 3 hours long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The only one I know with a longer show than that's Dr. Laura Schlesinger on XM 101. She's a family shrink, and she's got a 4-hour show. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, see, I think of this as a 3 hours of a shrinking people's heads to the outdoors. This is the 3-hour therapy session for those of us who love the outdoors.
Absolutely. I agree. Yep.
But you know, at 3 hours, really, I mean, it flies by. But like you, John, when you're talking about something that you love, it's not really a chore, is it?
No, I love it. I am getting so many emails and so much feedback on YouTube, and it takes a lot of time. It consumes a lot of time, as you well know. But yeah, I love it.
I saw something online the other day that when I saw the title of it, I thought, this is going to be goofy. And after I watched it, I thought that was one of the most insightful things I've ever seen about John Eberhart in my life. And it was a tour of your home. People came into your house, and you took them on a tour of the place. But every turn and every corner, you had a story to tell, and it really gave us an insight into how you look at things.
That was a Cribs video, and Exodus Outdoors, which is a motion camera company, they do quite a few of those, and I was fortunate enough they asked me to come and do it, and I got to show them all my mounted fish and my 50 or 60 rod combos in the basement and deer, and we had a nice conversation. Then we went up to Jay's and looked at the deer heads on the wall up at Jay's and Claire, and that was a nice video. But I'll tell you what, I just posted a video on my YouTube channel that has absolutely blown me away. I shot a big 8-point last fall, early season. I can't remember the date, actually. I think it was October 3rd. And I did not recover it. I rattled him out of a standing cornfield to within 25 yards, and I shot him a little bit too far back, and he ran into the corn. And to make a long story short, I did not recover him. And then the farmer, when he was picking the cornfield, there was a little swale out in the cornfield, and that buck was laying in that swale, dead. Coyotes obviously had gotten to it, but I got the antlers back, and I put a tag on it. And I went back about 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the corn's been picked, and there's snow on the ground. And I videoed the whole scenario. And while I was walking down the fence row, because it's a picked cornfield, there's a lot of 10s and 20-acre parcels along the one side. I actually videoed 8 different box blinds along his field edge, right on the line. Some of them were a little off the line, farther back on the property owner's property. But just to show people the amount of pressure that Michigan gets. And even though this was a private parcel, and there was only 37 acres of huntable land on it, and it was 170 acres total. The rest was all an open crop field. The pressure is just immense, and and then I called myself an idiot and an ASS, and I called myself a bunch of names during this video, because if I would have hired somebody with a dog tracking guy, they would have found that deer probably within 5 minutes. It just made a circle from where I went and died in this thing, which was literally 200 yards from the tree I shot it in. And by making myself out to be an idiot and taking the blame for everything, I had 15,000 views in 2 days on that video, and I think there's almost 100 comments on it, about just being real. And, most people that are high profile never admit to mistakes, and there was a lot of stuff to learn from that video. I was blown away. I'm going to start wounding more deer because you get a lot more hits.
I got to make sure to check that out. Just curious, why did you not call in a tracking dog?
I had to do stuff the other day. I shot him in the evening, and I looked for him in a big cattail marsh because his blood trail kind of petered out. He went through the corn, and it petered out right on the edge of the corn going into a big, tall cattail marsh. And I looked around in there for a long time, and I just didn't have – I had stuff to do the next day, and I just didn't call a dog. It was dumb on my part. My son Chris, who died last January, year ago January, he had 2 Bavarian bloodhounds that he smuggled back from Germany, so he used to have tracking dogs, so I know how proficient they are, and I did not do that, which was absolutely stupid on my part.
So is that the dead head that you sent me a picture of it by the truck?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. For Central Michigan on a piece of free permission property, yeah, that's a monster. And then I also rattled in a big swamp on October 19th, a big buck on public land, and I shot him too. So both bucks I shot in Michigan this year, I rattled in.
I'm not sure you and I have ever talked much about rattling and grunting. I know you're a huge proponent of scent control, but we've never talked into the calling. We've never talked about calling deer.
Yeah, I do. I rattle quite frequently in Michigan, and several, I don't know, maybe 5 now of the bucks, of the 33 bucks I've got in the Michigan record book, I rattled in the first couple days of the season. Early in the season, mature bucks are a little more susceptible to rattling as long as you're in an area with a lot of security cover, which obviously I was, because one was next to a standing cornfield, and then the other one was in a big public land swamp. So there was tons of security cover. Because they're still, at that point in time, they're still, sparring and pushing each other for pecking order and dominance. So I've had a lot of success rattling in the early season.
I wasn't aware of that. And at one time, you had the state record bow kill in Michigan, right?
I did, in 1981.
And so how many bucks do you have in the books these days?
I've got 33 from Michigan and 20 from out of state, so 53.
Those other pictures you sent me, are those from out of state bucks, you and your sons?
Yeah, we go to Kansas every year if we get drawn, and John shot a 168. That was that big white antlered one, and I shot about a 159 point, and then Joe shot a 142 10-point. And then I shot some coyotes too. I called in because I felt my tag first. I got to go coyote hunting.
Those are big coyotes too.
They were monster males. Yeah, and that was on a one sit. I shot both of those within 30 seconds of each other.
I didn't know where the picture was from, but I had to look close to make sure those weren't wolves. I thought maybe you went out somewhere you could hunt wolves. Pretty impressive.
No, those are just big male coyotes.
Hang tight, John. I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart. You can learn more about him. Well, just Google John Eberhart, and he's all over. But if you want to go to his website, it's eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. Do not expect his workshops to be habitat management, because they're not. Well, maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that. eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. We'll take a break. Lots more coming up with the Whitetail Whisperer right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, including WMIC in Sandusky, that's 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And the Twister, 92.1 WTWS in Houghton Lake. Let's go one more. Let's go to Escanaba, WCHT, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's MUCC.org. Again, MUCC.org. And one more time, if you want to save 25% on signing up for MUCC, and I would encourage you to do that. It's something I've done. I'm an MUCC member. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and save 25%. While you're bopping around the internet, check out a couple of things. My website, by the way, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Check out the YouTube channel of the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart, and then head on over to his website, Eberhart'sWhitetailWorkshop.com, Eberhart'sWhitetailWorkshop.com. John is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. And, John, I see one thing you stress is that you don't want people thinking that these workshops are habitat improvement. It's not, is it?
No, I don't own or lease any property, never have. Everything's public and knock on doors. So I've never hunted food plots, and I'm not that big of a proponent of, I shouldn't say I'm not. I don't care if somebody wants to buy land and manage it and keep everybody off, then they're expected to kill big bucks because they're going to get a lot of opportunities. But, my workshops are strictly for people to learn how to hunt wherever they're hunting, whether it's in Michigan or out of state, and just become more proficient at killing mature deer.
You look at this so much differently than so many other people, and the records prove that you've got this dialed in. Was this right from the beginning in your whitetail hunting career? Was this how you approached things? Did you come out of the gate with this mindset, I need to do it this way, or is this something that evolved over time?
Oh, it definitely evolved over time. I started hunting in the mid-'60s, and nobody in my family hunted, so I learned on my own. But by the mid-'70s, when I moved up north from downstate, I moved up here because there was a lot of deer, and I just hated living near Detroit. And then I got a job at Jay's. And by the time I was working at Jay's in the mid-'70s as an archery buyer, I was pretty proficient and felt like my desire was always to kill the biggest buck in the county that every year. It didn't always work, but I was targeting back then, 2.5-year-old 80, 90-inch, little 8s and 10 points, which that was the best deer they had at the time because we didn't have this land management, and we had 1 million gun hunters and everything got shot. So seeing a 2-year-old 8-point was a big deal back then.
If you don't shoot a big buck these days, can you live with that, or does that bother you until the next season?
I can definitely live with it. Does it bother me? Absolutely, because these 2 bucks I shot in Michigan in 2021, I had not seen or shot a buck in Michigan in 3 years. I hadn't even seen a buck I would shoot in 3 complete seasons. And when I go out of state, I'll see, 10 to 15 or 18 Pope and Young bucks in a week. So yeah, it bothers me, but yeah, you have no option but to deal with it. If you're killing monster bucks in Michigan every year, you're hunting a managed piece of property or a lease or something. Because if you're hunting regular property, blue collar property, there's no way you're going to kill big bucks every year. That's just not going to happen. You're going to have years where you're unsuccessful. And that's good because you get to regroup and look at the things you think you may have done wrong, even though you might not have done anything wrong. There just wasn't anything there to kill. But it makes you refocus for sure.
Why do some of these other states have so much, I don't want to say better whitetail hunting, a larger number of bigger deer?
Oh, there's lots of reasons. Michigan's a 2-buck state.
Which is crazy, absolutely crazy in my opinion.
Me too. I totally agree. Michigan has sandy soil, which is not conducive for minerals in the soil for growing big antlers. You look at a crop yield in Michigan, in southern Michigan, or northern Michigan, your crop yields are about 1/2 of what you'd get per acre versus what you'd get like in Iowa or a Kansas. And it's the same minerals that grow crops that grow antlers. So we have very poor soil. It's a 2-buck state. We've got more bow hunters than any other state by at least 50,000 over the number 2 state. We have I think the second largest amount of gun hunters, only behind Texas and maybe Pennsylvania. So we've just got a ton of hunting pressure, a lot of small parcels. It's not uncommon in Michigan, especially, south of, let's say, US 10, to have sections with 20 property owners in it. They own 5s and 10s and 20s and 40s and maybe 80s. So there's lots of hunters. We got just tons and tons of hunting pressure, and when you throw the $2 into it, Kansas, for instance, has less than 30,000 bow hunters. We got 320,000. Nebraska has 15,000 bow hunters. And property owners, when you go out west to the Mississippi River, you get permission, or, you're looking at several hundred acres, if not several thousand acres that these farmers own. So they just don't get the pressure, and they got better soil, and they're 1-buck states.
Is deer hunting for you a year-round venture? Are you out there right now doing postseason scouting?
As soon as the snow melts, I will, and I'll be doing my workshops, which are full, by the way. They're full already. But, yeah, as soon as the snow melts, that's when I do all my postseason scouting and location prep. And I'll also clean up all my locations from last year because, last year I did the same thing. I prepped my locations or re-cleaned them up during postseason. So I've got to go back this year to clean up the summer growth from last year. And I've got about 8 or 10. I usually prep 5 to 10 new locations every year. So that's what I will do. And I'm usually done with that by the end of April, when green up starts, because I like to do all my stuff during postseason. That way I can spook as many deer as I want, and it's not affecting the deer movements when I'm going in there to hunt in the fall. Preseason scouting, deer don't get bothered typically from January until fall, and if you're a mature buck and you're 2-3 years old and you've lived through a gun season, that influx of activity means it's time to go nocturnal. So, preseason scouting is very disadvantageous from a killing standpoint.
Why not go out right now and do your postseason scouting and clean up your shooting lanes right now?
Because there's snow on the ground, and I always like to wait till the snow's gone, because that way I'm looking at last fall's runways, and I can see the scrapes are still there, and licking branches are easier to tell licking branch from last fall from previous years, because the white of the meat of the tree branches is still showing. I can tell last year's rubs from previous year's rubs. Now, I could go out now and clean up old locations, revamp old locations and clean shooting lanes, but this is also my busy time of the year. I'm a sales rep in the hunting industry, and, like Friday, I leave for Fort Worth, and then I'm there for 5 days, and then I go to Phoenix for a sports show. So I'm really busy until the end of March.
Little Birdie told me you're not going to be that busy that much longer, though.
I'm retiring from this job at the end of the year. I'm still going to be working with Tethered, which is the saddle company, which, as you know, I hunt out of a saddle, and they make a signature saddle for me. And also, Sunlock's coming out with a John Eberhart signature.
Oh, my goodness. I've wondered why it has taken them this long to do that. Congrats.
Thank you. It's going to be designed for saddle hunters, so it's going to have knee pads in the pants, built right in. And it's just going to have different designs for saddle hunting, higher slash pockets on the jackets. You can get into them with your saddle on. I'm pretty excited about that.
As you should be. John, this whole concept of saddle hunting, I kind of smile when I look at this, because there are a lot of experts on the topic now that haven't been hunting out of a saddle for more than 5 years. You've been hunting out of a saddle for, 50 years?
41 years. 41 years. When I picked up a saddle at Jay's Sporting Goods in 1981, took me a while to learn how to use it, because nobody knew anything about them, but I could just see the advantages that would make over my hunting career, and it's a one-time purchase. A saddle lasts for the rest of your life. I've never looked back. I would never hunt out of a tree stand. I wouldn't even consider it.
Isn't it kind of crazy, though, about how popular they are now?
Oh, it's blowing up. It's absolutely blowing up because people are finally learning all the advantages there are using a saddle versus tree stands. And I'll tell you what, hunters this fall are going to have sticker shock when they go in to look at anything made out of metal coming from the Orient.
Really?
Tree stand prices are going to almost be double what they were last year.
Thanks for that news, John. Appreciate that.
Well, with all these container prices, containers in January of 2021, containers coming in from Asia were about $2,300 to $2,500 per container, and now they're $25,000 to $30,000. So they've went up over tenfold.
Wow.
So obviously, tree stands take up a lot of room in a container, so the cost per stand has to go up dramatically.
I want to go back. That's disappointing, but I want to go back to saddles for a minute. With all of the people out there using these now, do you see a lot of bad information about saddle hunting?
Yes. There's a lot of YouTube video guys that don't have a clue what they're talking about. But that's the beauty of social media. Everybody wants to be part of something, so they get their saddles and climb up a tree and you know, for a new user that's just looking at YouTube videos, they don't know what to believe and what not to believe. So, yeah, a lot of people do stuff and they watch somebody that's doing it wrong. And if they do it wrong, then obviously they're not going to be as successful. So, yeah, there's definitely a proper and an improper way to hunt out of a saddle and to move around the tree like you're supposed to and take advantage of all aspects of saddle hunting.
I was talking just at the end of the previous hour about YouTube and how it's easier than ever for people to become content creators. So there's good and bad with that, right? Because it's wonderful that you don't have to have a television or a radio studio or a network behind you to get the word out. But the downside is, you know, anybody can do it, so you got to be careful what you watch. John, I got to take a break. Can you stick around? I'd love to offer you the coveted third segment if you got time.
Absolutely.
The coveted third with the Whitetail Whisperer. Charlie, I haven't offered the coveted third segment in the third hour for a long time now. I was saving it. I was saving it for the Whitetail Whisperer, John Eberhart. Eberhart'sWhitetailWorkshop.com, Eberhart'sWhitetailWorkshop.com. The coveted third coming up with John right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. Let's go north to the bridge, north of the bridge, to the U. Let's go to Manistee. You can hear us on WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW, News Radio 790 and 100.5 FM. By the way, you can now hear me Saturday and Sundays on WSGW. I appreciate that very much. Talking now, by the way, I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine studio. I'm here in the studios of WSGW during this few minutes called the Outdoor Magazine studio with Charlie Root. I haven't seen Charlie in a couple weeks. As a result, the crowd in the parking lot, even though it's a beautiful day out, which I would expect we'd have a huge crowd waving Charlie on and signs and cheering Charlie, Charlie. It's down a little bit today because they didn't know when to expect him. So there's only probably, 30, 40 people out there right now. But they'll be waiting, Charlie. They'll be looking for autographs when you leave the studio. I drive right by them. They just completely ignore me. By the time I get out of the studio, I'm lighting up a cigar and I'm hitting the road. They're like, hey, see you, Avery. We're waiting for Charlie. That's okay. That's okay. I would feel the same way if I was hanging around with John Eberhart. Because if I was in a room with John Eberhart, all the attention would go to him, the Whitetail Whisperer. John, I find it interesting, that video I saw online of the tour of your house, your attention to your fishing stuff. Is this just the way that you're wired? When you do something, you do it at that level and with that level of detail?
Yes. I fish a ton. Once I'm done postseason scouting and location prep, I'm fishing. I had a world record steelhead in 1983.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It's not right that one guy should have a world record steelhead and a state record whitetail.
Well, they've both been broke, so I don't have either of them anymore. But I did at one time.
It's, and again, I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning of our conversation. It's a level of intensity and it's a willingness to work that most people, again, myself, don't have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've definitely got a deep desire and dedication to be good at whatever I do. And do you have a minute? I'll tell you about that steelhead story.
I got 3 minutes.
It's quite interesting. Back when I was working at Jay's, a company called not St. Croix, big rod blank company, not Sage.
Lamb Glass?
Nope, the other one.
I got a blank.
They built. I used to build custom rods back when Dick Swan was building custom rods, and they sent Dick and I each a 11.5-foot graphite rod, and these were like 2-pound rods. They were for using 2-pound test line for steelhead fishing. So Dick broke his, and these were just test rods to see if they were going to make them for consumers. Dick wrapped his guides on with A thread, which A thread is really, really thin thread, but he wanted to keep everything as light as possible, so he used A thread. Well, anytime you wrap something smaller diameter around something, it actually puts more pressure on it, like wrapping a small string around your finger versus a 3/8-quarter-inch rope. Mm-hmm. It's more pressure. So I wrapped mine with D thread because I knew the walls of that blank were very, very thin. And Dick's actually, when he wrapped the A thread on the guide, it pushed the guide foot through the blank wall. So mine didn't, and that's what I caught that world record steelhead on. And you could basically, on an 11.5-foot rod, you could take the tip and bend it around and touch the butt of the rod.
I don't hear as much about people chasing salmon and steelhead on those very light lines as I used to when you were doing that and Dick Swan was doing that. Is that not a thing anymore?
No, that's not a thing at all. Back in the day, catching fish on 2- and 4-pound test, steelhead especially, was a big deal. That's totally gone.
A lot of things, John, have changed. I mean, you've been around a few years. You've seen a lot of changes. When you look at the outdoor landscape these days, I don't care, hunting and fishing or whatever, are we in a better place than we were? Are we going the wrong direction? What do you think?
It depends on the category. I think from a fishing perspective, I think everything is very good. I think the fisheries are great in Michigan. I think I'm not a big proponent of the way deer hunting is going. I don't like the TV guys got this whole managed property, don't shoot a buck unless it's a 3 or 4-year-old deer because they're hunting managed zoo-like properties, and everybody else wants to do that. So everybody's buying and leasing property and kicking all, nobody gets permission anymore. I remember I was working doing seminars at the Wisconsin Deer Expo, and I had a guy come in from Iowa, and he was from Zone 5, which was one of the better zones in Iowa, southern Iowa. And he used to have permission from all the farmers around there. This guy was like 65 years old, and he knew everybody. And he didn't have permission to hunt in his own area anymore because all of the farmers that he knew leased all their properties to TV guys and rich people. So he was in Wisconsin hunting public land, which blew me away. So, yeah, the landscape is definitely changing. It's turning into European-style hunting. It's not near that much yet, but that's the way it's heading, where, rich people can kill big bucks because they can buy stuff and control it and keep everybody out, and they have more opportunities because they got a lot of big bucks.
But John Eberhart, you've proven that doesn't have to be the case. John Eberhart, the Whitetail Whisperer, his website, eberhartswhitetailworkshop.com. Check out his videos on YouTube. Do a Google search. You'll see a lot about John Eberhart. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. I had a real nice meeting last night as we're recording the show right now. I had a nice meeting where I had a chance to actually sit down next to my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, which it's funny. We talk every week, but we really don't see each other that much lately. But Dave, it was real nice to see you last night, and thank you again so much for your help in putting together our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction.
Gee, Mike, I forgot just what a handsome devil you really are.
I'm reminded of it every morning in the mirror.
2 times, 1 month, we met face to face. It's really unusual lately.
It is, but, I mean, tickets are sold out for the dinner. So, but there is going to be an online auction, and I will share that link with people so they can be a part of this event, even though, there's no tickets available. But one of the things that always makes this so successful, Dave, is your cooking. People will come just to try Dave Minar's cooking.
Well, gee, that's a nice compliment. And we always try hard to make your dinner just the most outrageous one. I've got so much stuff donated to do, and we got venison, we've got wild boar, we got bobcat, we got song dog, we got beaver, marsh hare, pheasant. And you want to do the venison recipe?
Yeah, let's do a venison. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I mean, we got a lot of crazy stuff, but we have like salmon and walleye and boar and chicken and pork loin. So the venison recipe we're going to do, we've done it for the show a long, long time ago. Going to use, say, like 8 to 10 ounces of tender venison per person, a medium onion diced fine, a nice 12-ounce package of mushrooms sliced in. If you got morels or some kind of woodland mushrooms, by all means do it. You need artichoke hearts quartered and drained, about a cup of fresh tomatoes diced up, a jar of beef gravy, a nice shot of Jim Beam or Jack Daniels if you have it in your liquor cabinet, a little bit of flour, olive oil, some garlic or butter or both, and some fresh grated pepper. So you're going to grate the pepper all over the meat, pound it between the saran wrap with a meat mallet or a heavy wine bottle, and flatten it out, and that's going to keep it from puckering up. So then after you grate the pepper on it, then you're going to dredge it in flour in a nice hot pan with a small amount of olive oil. Brown it on both sides. Take it out. Add the vegetables like the onions and mushrooms, artichoke hearts, and tomatoes. Get that rolling boil. Hit your bourbon into it. Cook that down for a minute or two. Add your gravy, the jarred gravy. Cook it down. You want to reduce it down by almost a half, so it's going to be concentrated flavor-wise. Put the meat back in. Heat it up just to warm. You don't want to overcook it because you're going to take them either steaks or medallions out, and while they're nice and rare, and then put them back in for a minute or so, and it should be done. I mean, if you don't like rarer meat or medium rare, try it. You could always cook it a little more. You're going to be amazed at the flavor difference by doing it that way. And if you were going to use cubed up venison, you would just cook this for a couple of hours instead, covered in an oven, 350 degrees. That's what we're going to be doing for your dinner. There'll be probably 70 pounds of venison we'll be doing.
How do you cook, Dave, for a big group like that? Do you take a recipe you would do for 2 people and you just multiply it by 10s or 12s or hundreds even? Or does it not work when you take an individual recipe and try to make it on that scale? Do you have to tweak it beyond that?
No, yeah, you tweak it beyond that. I know, say for your dinner, I'm going to have 70 pounds of venison coming in. I'm going to use probably 15 pounds of diced up onion, probably 3 cans of the big ones of artichoke hearts. The same with the tomatoes and like that. Well, like a quarter bottle of Jim Beam is going to go into this whole recipe. So I'm going to start on a Monday to get a dinner ready of this magnitude by Saturday.
Really?
So yeah. Well, I'm going to have to make probably 40 gallons of sauces.
That's crazy. And Dave, every meal I've ever been at, every dinner I've ever been at, the quality, the consistency is there because I got to believe, it would be real easy for somebody without your level of experience when they start cooking for that kind of a volume that your taste is going to go off a little bit.
I don't know. I've done it for so long. I can tell you I'm going to put a handful of this or a cup of spice, and I know it's going to come out from all of the time we've done it. And there's other chefs out there that do the same thing and like catering concerns. But if you're going to take the household person that cooks at home to try to do that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be overwhelming.
Overwhelming, yeah. Well, it's not for you, Dave, and I appreciate you helping us out. Again, the Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner is sold out, but the online auction is opening up now. In fact, keep an eye on my Facebook page. I will be posting a link to that. David, always a pleasure, and we'll talk again soon.
All righty. Thank you, Michael.
Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. I say this every week, but you, the listener, are the most important part of this entire deal that I've got going here. Because if you didn't listen to the radio show, if you didn't listen to the podcast, if you didn't interact with me on social media, this whole thing would be for naught. There would be no reason to do this. I have a lot of years left in me, God willing. And I appreciate you being along with me for this ride. And we got a lot more years ahead of us. So let's continue to promote the outdoors. Let's continue to get involved in the outdoors. Let's continue to get outdoors. Don't hesitate to hit me up with an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Check out the website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.